things happening at the same time. This project was a project of maths problem solving that we're working with AMISA and the South African Maths Foundation. And what they're doing is they're every year primary school and high school, that's why it can be done in different spaces.
And the focus was to develop teachers' heuristic understanding and their ability to use heuristics, which is heuristics are problem-solving strategies to solve non-routine problems, like what we normally would encounter in a maths challenges. So our target audience has always been very much diverse teachers, to include teachers from rural and urban contexts, from quintile 5 to quintile 1 contexts, to include teachers with different kind of access, if they only have a phone, if they only have a laptop, if they only have a tablet, and if they only have Wi-Fi at school or they only have limited data, how can we include them into the system? So that was all part of the learning design. And we also really considered in the learning design teachers who'd never previously engaged in an online learning context. So that was also an iterative question to say, hang on, how can we build this into that kind of space? And believe it or not, we started before COVID and we developed this before COVID. So it's this, quite something. And then as COVID unfolded, we continued developing. So everyone seems to always assume COVID had everything to do with when we went online. No, it didn't. So our learning design decisions were based around asynchronous access, with self-completion being the main driver, but then also supporting that with synchronous online meetings. We designed for low bandwidth, unstable internet connections, as is in lots of contexts in South Africa. We designed for ease for use and to maximize the user experience, and we designed for novice users with low tech skills and who are new to online learning. So that was sort of our context. So we had 4 iterations, and this is, I see there's a question around how many people. So here you can start seeing in March to June 2021, that's where we had 150 teachers participate. And at that point, we had 10 units that ran over 10 weeks. So that was our first iteration, and we learned a lot from that. Then the next year, we had 150 teachers again, but now we realized that 10 units over 10 weeks was a lot. And we looked at where the dropout figures were highest so that we could see what we could learn from the dropout figures. Oh, sorry, something's gone odd on my computer. Let's see, there we go. So we wanted to see where the biggest dropout was, and it was sort of halfway through the 10-week mark. So we decided to shorten the course. Then the next iteration was it was 350 for that year. Last year it was 700 teachers, but the next iteration was 350 South African teachers from the South African Maths Foundation, and also again 6 units over 6 weeks. And then the second iteration was at the end of the year, 350 teachers over 6 weeks. So what we looked at, we evaluated the 4 iterations. We looked at things like teacher participation. We looked at completion rates and teacher achievement. And we looked at quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data, we would get teacher responses. We had a WhatsApp group going. We had comments on Padlet. I don't know if you've ever used Padlet, but if you haven't, go and use it for your teacher, for any kind of online learning. It's really fantastic. Or workshops if you want to. Then quantitative data, our LMS produced loads. We use a Moodle LMS, and it produces incredible data. And so we had a plugin that would help us to understand the data, and would also helped us to visualize the data. So the plugin is fantastic. We looked at completion rate and achievement data. So our findings were quite spread. So if we looked at teacher participation from iteration 2, where we've now shortened the course, to iteration 4, we saw that initially in any online course, it's around the world, it's the same story, is that you would have lots of interaction right in the beginning, and then people start dwindling off and they lose momentum. But what we found was that through the different interventions that we use, our completion rate and our stick-to-itness, the teachers tended to, who started a lot more finished by the end of iteration 4 than in the beginning. With our completion rate, you'll see here that the two completion rates, initially when we had iteration 2, our completion rate was 58%, versus if you look at our completion rate at the end of iteration 4, the amount of teachers who finished by completing the final assessment, that rate went up from between 77% and 94%. So we had this very strong improvement in our completion rates and in our participation rates from what we learned how to improve on this. So also, if you look at the teacher achievement rates between iteration 2 and iteration 4, that was quite significant. So the idea was, and this is how teachers are assessed in this course, is they have multiple choice questions that are randomized. So there's the multiple choice questions are randomized on Moodle to be, I think, 40% easy, then 30 and 30 difficult and most difficult. And then what the questions do is Alvin developed, I think, about 80 or 100 questions to fit into the question bank. And so no one would ever get the same question set together. So you wouldn't be able to do the same test as your friend would and use the questions. So there's lots of different compilations of the questions. And then our goal was we would give them, if they wanted to improve on their score, they could do that, because it wasn't about writing the test, it was improving their mathematical problem solving and thinking and using the heuristics. So that's why they could go and do the test a few times to see if they could improve on their score, and many did. So you can look at the results here. And we had, in the first iteration, it was very few teachers, but we had 4 teachers who got full marks. But now look at the increase here in the total distinctions from a small group, obviously, versus the 350 teachers. It was quite a different picture in the amount of people who got distinctions and the amount of people who got just a pass. So here's our learnings, and I'm sure you're interested in that. I'm almost done. This is one of our last slides. So the learnings was, we looked at the learning design and we reduced the course from 10 weeks to 6 weeks. We found 6 weeks was the optimized length. We also used SCORM packages. So if you're in learning design, if you don't know what a SCORM package is, just go Google it. But it's basically, it allows the participant in a Wi-Fi environment to download the learning content with everything that they need to do, to go and do it in an offline space. And when they're back in the Wi-Fi environment, it syncs up. So it remembers where they are. We also built in lots more learner engagement, interactivity, and quizzes. And we updated the course resources and materials and provided additional support. From learning from iterations, we also learned, when we analyzed the data, to go and define ourselves much more clearly, to monitor the engagement levels much more regularly. Once a week was not enough. We needed to do it every day in certain spaces. In other spaces, we did it weekly. And then we also gave additional support and materials to prepare for and complete the final assessment. So they were prepared better for when they wrote the final assessment. And obviously, because it was math problem solving, they couldn't go and study and remember. It needed to be an embodied problem solving understanding of how to do it and how to solve the non-routine problems. We also learned with the online facilitated sessions, we moved it from a Wednesday to a Friday afternoon, where there was less clashes in teachers' schedules. We also broke up into smaller groups, so we had 6 facilitators running it. And then initially teachers were assigned per province. And you might remember there were those terrible riots in KwaZulu-Natal at some point, and then there were floods. And it was in that time, and the KwaZulu-Natal group would kind of commiserate and talk to each other and support each other. But it didn't really, the provincial breakup wasn't necessarily the thing. So we allowed people to also move between groups as they wanted to. So they could attend different groups. And we also recorded all the sessions and put it on the LMS. So if you're attending one group and you want to go and watch the recording from another group, that was actually always also fine. And all of this really helped to improve our stick-to-itness of our teachers, to allow them to stick to the course, finish it, complete it in the 6 weeks, complete their final assessment and submit it, and submit it a few times if they wanted to. And it also improved our results, so people's achievement at the end of the day. So I think that was all the questions. I'm going to just put if you want to contact us about this course or you have questions, I've put our email address in the chat so that you can go and just get in touch, ask us questions if you need to, but that's where we are at the moment. So are there any, oh no, we're not supposed to have questions now, hey? Sorry about that, but I'm done.
How many?
It has two eyes.
I didn't see it.
So on your breadboard, here, right? At the bottom, right? Those are